Hello, I'm David Hughes. Welcome to Your Perfect Body, the podcast of the Esoteric Teaching community. Today's selection is from the Esoteric Teaching Introductory Seminar entitled Transcendental Knowledge. The esoteric teaching is an integral part. In fact, it is the core of the Vedic literature. The Vedic literatures are not an expression of a particular sectarian religion or academic school of thought, but the living tradition of an ancient sacred civilization, a civilization complete with a highly developed system of technology, thought, and lifestyle centered on spiritual realization. Vedic culture is extremely broad, providing a rich social context inclusive of all kinds of people and supporting all types of human endeavor and levels of intelligence, ability, and spiritual advancement. The various Vedic literatures form a whole much greater than the sum of its parts. This is because authentic Vedic knowledge is not handed down by uninspired academic study, but by personal apprenticeship to accomplished masters of the Vedic arts and sciences. One should gain a broad understanding of the entire Vedic context before attempting to study or practice any of the specialized Vedic arts, what to speak of teaching them. The best and most accessible introduction to Vedic thought is Bhagavad Gita as it is, the most widely known and devotedly adored volume of Vedic literature. The Bhagavad Gita is also known as Gita-upanishad, since it addresses and answers all the most important questions discussed in the Upanishads. However, one should be careful to study a translation and commentary on the Gita by a representative of one of the 4 authorized Vedic lineages. Ideally, one should study the Gita personally with an authorized representative of the Vedic lineage. Otherwise, one is certain to misunderstand the esoteric mystery of the Gita. The specific qualification of transcendental Vedic wisdom is that when the teacher and student are both properly qualified, the narrations of Vedic spiritual truth are so pleasing to the soul that the more one hears, the more one's appetite to hear increases. For example, Bhagavad Gita may be heard or read many times, but under the proper conditions, each hearing or reading reveals newer insights into spiritual reality and inundates the hearts of both hearer and speaker with fresh waves of transcendental pleasure. This is not true of ordinary mundane literature, which upon repeated reading simply becomes stale and boring. This is because the Gita is transcendental knowledge of the absolute truth. As stated in an ancient Vedic mantra, O compassionate Lord, guide us from darkness into light, from fear to fearlessness, from hatred to love, from conflict to peace, from ignorance to absolute truth. Peace, peace, peace. Providing this empathetic spiritual guidance to all human beings without distinction is the fundamental purpose of the entire Vedic civilization. And to receive this divinely inspired guidance and open the path to eternal peace, all we need to do is accept the divine instructions of the great Vedic literature without any whimsical editing, modification, or speculation. This is the complete solution for all the pressing problems of contemporary life. The Vedic literature is written in elegant Sanskrit poetry, using strict rules of grammar and syntax, including a sophisticated checksum system similar to that used in computer data transmission to preserve its integrity as a reference. But Vedic knowledge is far more than intellectual, academic, or book learning. The Vedic arts and sciences are personally passed down from teacher to student by the strict system of parampara, or disciplic lineage. Teachers of Vedic arts and sciences must be accomplished practitioners of the specialized knowledge of their lineage, and also must be approved by the previous teacher before being authorized to represent the Vedic wisdom. Therefore, students of Vedic arts such as yoga and tantra must be sure to verify prospective teachers' credentials according to the parampara system before accepting any instruction from them. Otherwise, you are certain to be cheated. Like the fundamental works of any great civilization, the Vedas have several schools of interpretation, of which 4 are prominent, being authorized in the Vedas themselves. These 4 are: 1. The Brahma Sampradaya, descended from Lord Brahma through Madhvacharya, of which I am an initiate. 2. The Rudra Sampradaya, descended from Lord Shiva through Ramanujacharya. 3. The Lakshmi Sampradaya, or Sri Sampradaya, descended from Goddess Lakshmi through Vishnu Swami. And 4. The Sanaka Sampradaya, or Kumara Sampradaya, descended from the 4 Kumaras through Nimbarka Acharya. Each of these 4 authorized Vedic lineages has a distinctive style of interpretation and a complete library of commentaries upon the Vedic literature. Other more recent schools, such as that of Shankaracharya and his followers, are considered spurious, unauthorized, and are best avoided by the sincere student who seriously wishes to understand the esoteric meaning of the Vedas. In summary, anyone who seriously desires to understand the absolute truth and realize the esoteric teaching by means of the Vedas must approach a spiritual master teacher situated in one of the 4 authorized Vedic lineages and earn acceptance into a bona fide Vedic esoteric school. Otherwise, there is no possibility of understanding the Vedic path properly. If you want to study yoga, tantra, or any of the Vedic arts, the first thing you should ask a prospective teacher is if they have taken initiation from any of the 4 Vedic disciplic lineages, and if so, which one. Without this initiation, and the years of strict training required to earn it, they cannot possibly represent the Vedic conclusion accurately. The 4 Vedic authentic lineages go back thousands of years to Srila Vyasadeva, the divider of the Vedas. Others are of recent invention and are not authorized by the Vedas themselves. So this is the situation. Many thousands of years ago, there was a flourishing culture centered on the Indian subcontinent, and this was the Vedic civilization. Its far-flung outposts included South America, North America, Europe, Australia, the Far East, Pacific Islands, and so on. And if you go there, you can still find the remnants of the Vedic influence, the Vedic dynasty. However, there was a problem in the Vedic dynasty about 5,000 years ago. When Lord Krishna appeared on this planet, about 5,000 years ago, when he left, he took with him, basically, all the self-realized souls, leaving only a handful to carry on the Vedic civilization. And that wasn't enough. Gradually, they were overcome, and the Vedic civilization collapsed as a political entity. However, the records of the Vedic literature were preserved, and the beginning of the Brotherhood of the Esoteric Teaching was formed to keep these literatures intact for a future age. The Vedas, of course, contain knowledge of the future. There's one book called Bhavishya Purana, which means the history of the future. And in it, everything that took place after the Vedic Empire collapsed is basically recorded, including our own time and even future from our time. And so far it has proved to be remarkably accurate. So they knew what was going to happen. Therefore, they went underground. And during the collapse of the Vedic Empire and the ensuing chaos all over the world, the Brotherhood of the Esoteric Teaching